the show. Let's see if I
Hey,
can share
hey,
it.
hey. Welcome, welcome,
Welcome,
welcome.
everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited about tonight's live. It's a special conversation. I got my homie, my friend, Nat in the house. And so I hope
Hey,
you guys are
everyone.
excited for tonight's conversation. We're gonna give it a few moments to just to allow some people to get in the room. And for those of you who are watching us live, go ahead and put hashtag live. And for those of you who are catching us on the replay, go ahead and put hashtag replay. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just give it a few moments to allow some people to join the live. And I'm
And
going
I
to go
want
ahead
some
and,
people to share so we can share.
yes,
Please.
yes. Make sure you guys share this because this is a conversation you don't want to miss. Okay. All
Excellent.
right. Y'all see the topic, right? Dating. Give it a few moments to just to allow some people to. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead and give it a few moments to allow some people to get in the room. Nat, you're sharing it within Kingdom Connections now, or you want
Yes,
me? Okay.
that's what I was about to do.
Get in the room. We're having a much needed conversation. We know a lot of you have been asking for this particular topic. A lot of you are caregivers, whether it's for your parents, whether it's for a child, whatever it is. We just want you to know that we've heard. And this is a conversation that I brought my girl Nat to sit down and have this necessary conversation. So, again, just going to allow some people to get in the room. I want you guys to do us a favor and share this live with as many people as you can so that they can be in the room as well. Okay? So
Yeah.
share, 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 and welcome. Listen, we already know dating
All
can
right.
be challenging. Dating can be a journey. We already know the challenges that comes with dating. And that's why we are hosting this live tonight because we want you to know that we understand. We know where you are, and we're going to give you some tips tonight. We're going to give you some practical strategies how you can navigate dating with success. Amen.
Absolutely.
Nat, you ready for tonight's conversation?
I'm ready. Ready, ready.
I know that's
And
right.
I
Let's go.
appreciate you having this space for our brothers and sisters, our
Amen.
caregivers
Amen.
and
So
the
do us a
conversation.
favor. Yes, I'm excited as well. Do us a favor for all of our listeners that are tuning in. Go ahead and let us know where you're watching us from. Go ahead and drop your city and your state and let us know where you guys are tuning in from so we can shout you out really quick before we get started with this conversation on tonight. Nat, can you see the comments?
I think
Ooh.
it says, yeah, new comments will appear here. It does say that somewhere.
Okay, I see it. Show comments on stage. Yeah, we're gonna start. So once we start getting them comments coming in. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and let us know where you guys are tuning in from, okay? Hello, Valerie. Welcome, welcome. Hey, New Jersey in the house. Hey, Nicole. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, hey, hey. All right, so we're going to talk about dating tonight. Hey, Angel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, for those of you, right, you may be a caregiver to your mother, to your children. You are taking care of somebody. You're not just living this life alone. That's what tonight's conversation is going to be about. Atlanta in the house. Let's
Uh-oh.
go. So,
Yes.
hey, hey, hey. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Good evening. Hey, Miss Kristen. Welcome. So, for those of you guys who don't know who I am Coach Roxy. I am a certified life and dating coach, and I love love. Okay, I just love love. I love to see people in healthy and thriving kingdom relationships. Okay, so no toxicity, no toxic relationship, and so I teach Christian women how to date with purpose and how to marry their God sent man. All right, so we do not settle at all. No to settling. We say no to settling. Okay, so I mean, if you know me, I see some of my clients are in the room. You already know what I stand for, and I'm really passionate about seeing women in healthy and thriving relationships. Why? Because choosing wrong can cost you so much. It can cost you your destiny, and it can cost you your life, unfortunately. So This is why we have coaching. This is why we also have a safe space called Kingdom Connection. It's a faith filled community of Christian singles, and we gather together. We host events, and we do things like these. We go live, and that is one of the admins for Kingdom Connections Facebook community. So for those of you who are not a part of KC, join the community, okay? Because you'll be glad you
Amen.
did. And who knows, you might meet your person. You just never know. So again, welcome, welcome, welcome. And hey
Welcome.
Terry, welcome, welcome. So again, tonight we're gonna be talking about all things dating. I have Natasha Pierre here, and she is a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Okay. Listen, so she knows what she's talking about. Put some respect on her name. All right. So Nat, I'm just so happy to have you here tonight. So
Mhm.
grateful for this conversation. Thank you for your yes. Okay. A lot of people
Amen.
may not know our story, but Nat and I met, I believe it was over 4 years ago, right? 4 years ago, we met. I actually hosted a women's retreat, okay? And that's something that I love doing as well. A lot of people may not know that about me, but I also host retreat as well for women. So I hosted a retreat, and that was one of our guests. She attended our
Mhm.
retreat. She came out, she loved it. And shortly after the retreat, she said, you know what? The Lord told me to serve. She told me to help out as much as I can. And that has been serving Kingdom Connection. She walks alongside me. She goes hard. Okay. Like if no one else takes Kingdom Connection seriously,
It's
you
my
can know
baby.
that Nat does. Okay. This is her baby as well. And so,
Yes.
Nat, it is such a blessing. And I always want to give you your flowers to just say thank you so much for saying yes to serving, for saying yes to answering the call to serve God's people. You're not only serving
Amen.
amongst us, but you're serving God's people because KC is also a ministry as well. So
Yes.
welcome, 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 Nat.
You.
We want to go ahead and get started, and I want you to introduce yourself for everyone that's watching you on tonight, Nat.
All right. My name is Natasha Pierre. Most people who know me will call me Nat. And I'm a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So, what that means is that I diagnose, I treat mental health disorders. I could also do therapy. I'm licensed in New Jersey and Florida, but currently only practicing in Florida. I am excited to be in this space. It is always an awesome, awesome thing when I can not just serve, but use this God given gift that I have, which is the passion for mental health. So, getting to merge that with my faith, it's going to be fire tonight. It's going to be very much needed. If you're not in the room and you get to watch this on replay, it's going to be just as important. So, share if you can,
Amen.
but we're happy you're here.
Amen. Thank you so much, Nat, for that introduction. For those of you guys that are watching this live, go ahead and put hashtag live so we can see you in the room. And for those of you who are watching this on the replay, go ahead and put hashtag replay. So Nat, one of the things you just mentioned is, mental health. And I think, I can't wait to go live again to talk to you more in depth about mental health because
Mhm.
when it comes to dating, mental health is a real thing. And so I know you are a psychiatric nurse practitioner and you treat as well. But why do you think you're so passionate when it comes to dating as well as like carrying the responsibilities of being a caregiver? Like, what makes you so passionate about this particular topic?
Well, it's a lived experience for me. So, as a mom who has a child with autism, who's now a young adult, 21, and also was a caregiver to my mom, before she passed, I do understand how that shaped my dating world and the things that I wasn't taught. So having these meaningful conversations in this space is so important. But even more so when you don't realize how much of unhealed mental health pieces operate in all of that. So not just in the mothering of the child with the disabilities or the special needs, but then now becoming caregiver. And where do you fit dating and all of that when you haven't dealt with a lot of the things that come with mental health issues? So it's a whole big umbrella to how we as kingdom people can date successfully, and that's why it's an important conversation. It's an important conversation and get all these layers unpeeled and find the space for healthy dating and healthy marriages.
Amen. Well, I'm excited. I have a few questions that I'm going to ask you tonight. And so, for those of you that are watching, and if you have questions, make sure you jot them down as well so we can answer your questions later on.
Yes. Mhm.
So, Nat, I know you talked about like you had your own experience, right? And I'm sure there's some people in the audience who can relate to the fact that maybe they had to take care of their mom, their dad, or maybe it's a child, right? Like for
Mhm.
me, I got 4 kids now. So I am a
Mhm.
caregiver for my children. Like I'm
Mhm.
constantly taking care of my kids. And I remember even dating. Well, I wasn't just dating for myself, I was also dating with my children involved as well, making sure that I chose what was best for them. And so, what does it mean by, caregiver responsibilities? Like, what does this mean exactly for those that's like, what does that look like when it comes to dating, caregiving and dating?
Mhm. You brought up a good point. Caregiving has many hats. So, caregiving for your children and in your household, but in the specific dynamic of a caregiver in this one for responsibilities, it is the fathering and mothering independently. So, as a single mom, a single dad, caregiver role, but now with that added piece of a child who may have a disability or a diagnosis like autism, it could be developmental delays, it could be a physical disability, it could be a behavioral disability. And then, there was other questions the last time we had a live, and someone even asked about caregiver role for their elderly parent. And I thought to myself, those dynamics kind of work the same way. It's caregiver, and where do you fit that in with dating? So, caregiver, when we're talking about it here, is anybody that you are caring for, more than 50% of the time, because I don't want to leave parents who are co-parenting out of this. I don't want to leave caregivers who have shared responsibility caring for their mom, their elderly dad either. So anybody who takes care of more than 50% of somebody's care, and you're responsible for giving that care. So, getting them dressed, providing their meals, anything that has to do with their care daily, bathing, cooking, cleaning for them, making sure that they get all their needs met, that's caregiver.
Amen. Thank you so much for breaking that down. I see someone in the audience that said this is an important topic, and I do agree because people really do deal with
Mhm.
this in dating.
Mhm.
Why do you think dating feels harder for someone who do have those responsibilities, though?
I think a lot of it comes from the dynamics of what we don't know already about dating, right? So from being a dating coach that it's difficult even without these dynamics. So you may have someone who's in front of you who doesn't have any children, never been married, and still comes along with the difficulties and the challenges that come with dating, especially kingdom dating. So you're adding that dynamic onto it. But when you're talking about dating in this dynamic, it's who are you putting first, right? Because you already have this added challenge of caring for children, caring for your elderly, and now you are trying to care for yourself and implement dating. How do you do that? Where does it all begin? What do you start with first? And so I think that is one of the challenges that people don't want to really discuss, and one of the hurdles people don't really want to address. And until really address those, I like to get that elephant out of the room and say you really should know your why before you even date, right? Some
Mm,
people need not to be dating yet.
that's
I know
good.
it hurts to say it. You don't want to hear it that way, but we got to give the raw truth. If you aren't prepared and you haven't found out what your why is, this is why we're having this important topics. Maybe you shouldn't be dating. And then we'll talk about what happens when you do the proper steps so that you can healthy date. But that's what it looks like to me when we talk about dating amongst these challenges as a caregiver.
Mm, okay, I like that. So I had a client, Nat, and she, she is a traveler. She didn't have any kids, and she was really like dating out here, right? And one of the things she said to me was, whenever she got back out on the dating scene, she wanted to make sure that that potential partner didn't have any kids that were young.
Mhm.
Well, she ended up meeting a guy within my program, and the guy was actually a caregiver for his son that was disabled. So I had to remind her, like, remember what you said. You didn't want to date anyone that had young children because you like to travel. And I saw her throughout my program, and they really had a great connection. Things went really well for them. He was a great guy. They hit it off, but it was I saw her go through the challenges of like hanging out with him, but he really couldn't do so much because he had to always be back home. And so there were some challenges that she faced. And then at the end, she was like, this is the reason why, she has to really be careful with dating, because that was her first time dating someone who was a caregiver. And
Mhm.
I just saw her go through those challenges. So thank you for addressing that. Someone said, that's why I can't date. I'm my mom's caregiver and it's stressful and difficult.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Daryl. So I'm pretty sure you can attest to the fact that this is a much needed conversation
Mhm.
about dating and being a caregiver,
Mhm.
because not everybody will understand.
Yep.
Valerie said single mom and caregiver. So she's a single mom and she's a
Okay.
caregiver to her brother
Mhm.
that's battling
Mhm.
cancer.
Mhm.
Sorry to hear that, Valerie.
Mhm.
So yeah, so some people feel like it's too much, dating and also, being a caregiver. So what do you say to those people who are juggling? Like they have the desire to date, but they have this great responsibility, of being a caregiver. What do you say to those individuals?
I say it's really good to be realistic. And let's go back to your core why of why you want to date is what's going to drive what you do next. So for instance, you don't want your why to be that I want someone to come rescue me, or I want someone to come fix the situation I'm in, or be a helper, because that's unfair to the person coming in. They should get that chance to know you first, care about you, and then of course they should always have an understanding of your challenges and the things that you have to do. But really, you got to understand your why, because that's what's going to shape how you approach dating. Meaning, I've seen people who want to date but they really can't fit it in. I've seen people want to date but their children really aren't at a stable place, meaning you're still at the height of this child with their disability. They're still having a lot of behavior disorders. They're still acting out, they're still having problems in school, they're still that's a lot to bring into a new relationship. So
Yeah.
realistically, I tell people that honestly, I would not advise you to date, especially in that space, because child going through those, even the caregiver, if you're taking care of, someone, again, I respect the person who said that they're taking care of their brother who has cancer, because we did talk about family members. And kudos to her, because that's a big challenge too. And we added that in, of course, caregivers to family members who may be sick or ill, going through whatever transition in their medical space that they could be going through. But one of the big things is understanding what you're bringing somebody else into too. Because if you truly want someone who's going to be caring about you and loving you in your space and growing with you, you have to understand that's not everybody who has that capacity. Not everybody's going to have that capacity. So at least let's try to at least manage what you have in your home, manage your household, so that you can fit that space in. But
Mm,
before we even get to that space, I always tell people prioritize yourself too, because there's a lot of people
mm-hmm.
who want to
That's
date who
good.
haven't really healed. So you now
Mm.
want to date, but you're unhealed, and then you have challenges of caregiver role, and you really haven't addressed it. Now you want to pile somebody else on that, and that is rough. That's what shakes the whole household up. It disrupts the peace everywhere amongst you, the care people who need the caregiving. So going back to your original question, I really do believe it's about finding out what your why is, making sure you're in a healthy space to date, and being okay with this might not be my time. It might not really be my time right now.
I like that. Just being realistic, right? And knowing that sometimes you have to, prioritize. You have to prioritize dating because like I always say, dating requires a lot of your time. It requires a lot of your resources. It requires your energy. And when you're a caregiver, a lot of your energy is there, in being a caregiver.
Yeah.
So, um my next question is, for those who are watching, whenever it comes to dating, that you said knowing your why.
Hmm.
What are some good whys that you feel like, I know you went through that season as
Hmm.
well? What was your why to saying, you know what, though I'm going through this season of being a caregiver for my children and for my mom, what was your why that you did it?
That's a good question, because the why should be pretty much the same why for somebody who's single. So people single watching this who just happen to hop on, that why is going to be the same, right? What is your purpose? Because your why has to be driven, and what is a union? What does that purpose look like for you? Is it to, further the kingdom? Is it to show up a healthy relationship for your next generation? Is it to break generational curses? Is it to bring favor to the person that you're with, because there's a skill set that you have that you can lend to this person coming in? So I know for me, my why was I needed to break generational curses, and I needed my sons to see healthy relationships, because I know that I couldn't break that pattern without them seeing it. They had to see it within me to know
Mm,
it's possible, because there's a lot of divorce in my family. So the
mm.
reality is, I had to deal with,
Wow.
casting those away, your prayer, your fasting, making sure people think it's only, when people speak of soul ties, but there's a lot of things that are in the unseen realm too, things that we don't know what that was done before us, and you got to fight those words, those warfares, those witches, warlocks, demons, demonic stuff that's already been done before you, and then deal with, okay, now how do I show up healthy? So for me, one of my whys was really coming
Your
into
kids.
breaking a
Yeah.
lot of the generational
I
things and
love
letting them see
that.
something healthy, because I hadn't seen that. So I want them to see a healthy relationship, a healthy kingdom marriage and relationship, so they can do that, and their children can do that, and their children's children, for as long as we're on
Amen.
this earth.
Amen. I love that you said that, you had a purpose for dating. You wanted to break those curses and you felt like, you know what, I'm not going to let this stop me, because I know a lot of people put dating off. They
Mhm.
wait until later because they're thinking, I don't have time. But you, on the other hand, you were like, listen, I'm going to have to juggle. Okay. I'm going
Yeah.
to have to do this because my why is because I want to show them, though I may have these challenges and I am a caregiver, I can still show up and show them what healthy love looks like. And I love that. So thank you for sharing that, Nat.
Mhm.
For those of you who are just tuning in, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, y'all.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello, hello.
We,
I do want to add though, I did take time. So
Mhm,
after my divorce, I took 3 years because I had moved to a new location and I
mhm.
was rebuilding. So I had asked God, where was He going to place me? And I ended up in Florida. So I did take a break. And in that time period, I did do therapy. So I did do that. And of course,
I
because
love
of my
that.
why, I wanted to be healed too. And I wanted to also manage my household. You know what I mean? I really wanted my children to be in a space where they would
Mm.
never feel that I put dating in front of them,
Ooh,
that I put my why of dating and a relationship in front of them. So I wanted to respect that space of, for me, it was three. I have this thing with three. So me and God, we have our conversations and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen to you. If it says three, it's three. So for me, it was 3 solid years. I did no dating. I did
ooh.
healing and really just getting my children to a space where when it was
Wow.
time, we had a good conversation. Mommy's gonna start dating. This is what's gonna look like. This person won't be your dad, but you're gonna respect him because I'm gonna respect you by making sure it's someone who respects our space. So I didn't want it to be one of those things where they felt like I was putting somebody else before them,
Yeah.
or that I was just trying to band-aid my life or run away from being a responsible single mom at the time. So I did
Mm.
do that space. I did take that time off.
Amen. Amen. Y'all, listen, this is such an amazing conversation. Make sure you guys are sharing this, okay? This
Yes.
is what a lot of people, this is kingdom. We talking
Yes.
about kingdom relationships, kingdom marriages, y'all. And this is real stuff, real challenges that people go through. And so, I mean, again, I'm just really glad that we're able to have this conversation in this
Yes.
space, Nat. Um, I want to talk about healing because you mentioned something that was so pivotal that I have been preaching and teaching the power of healing for years. And the importance whenever you do heal, making sure that you really heal before going off into a new relationship.
Yes.
And I love that you said you took 3 years off of dating so
Mm-hmm.
that you can focus on your household, focus on your mental health, making sure that you're healed from your previous marriage
Mm-hmm.
before you got into dating again. So I do want to touch on the attachment styles. I know a lot of people may not know what attachment styles are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how they can show up within dating when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
being a caregiver. So, can you touch on that for us so we can understand how attachment styles show up?
Yes, I'm always happy to talk about attachment styles because we hear so much on social media on many different things, and actually research shows attachment styles are a better predictor for healthy relationships and marriage than are the five love languages, than trying to figure
That's
out if
good.
somebody's narcissist versus just absent and doesn't care. It's really a better indicator. And I think that reason why it's so important, it's a better indicator because it tells a lot about us and how we attach to others and how we show up in relationships. And I think that's the best thing about what attachment theory does and the different attachment styles. It really tells a lot about that. So there's four different going into it. So there's four different attachment styles. There's secure, there's anxious, there's a dismissive avoidant, and then there's a disorganized avoidant. So those are the four different types. Now, of course, secure sounds like what it is. Someone who's very secure, they handle conflict well, they, can handle closeness. They can tolerate if you're distant for a little while. They don't jump off assuming that if you didn't talk to them, that you must be doing something, right? They don't have that anxious piece. Now, the anxious person is a little different. They need a lot more reassurance. They have a lot more fears of abandonment. They overthink things. They double text. They think about the text after they sent it. They wonder if it's right. And they just need, a lot of reassurance, a constant amount of reassurance. So they worry a little bit more when they don't have that reassurance. So they're always concerned that something may be going on. The person doesn't like them. They may be overreaching, overdoing a lot more. Now, the avoidant attachment, the two different types. Now, they say the dismissive avoidant is someone who is really running away from like a childhood piece. So those are the people who are hyper independent. They had to take care of themselves. They probably weren't coddled. And it's funny because we talk about talking to our children about their emotions and making sure that they can express themselves. They struggle with vulnerability, telling you how they feel, even the fact that they have an issue with closeness. So they're someone who pulls away when things get serious. When you start talking about the future, or you want to know where it's going, they're running away. They're pulling away. Now, disorganized avoidant, they're a little bit different because there's a constant push pull. So they'll be gone, then they will come back again. They can be really fearful about connections and emotions, but they're really more unpredictable. Like the other person has more of a pattern. This person, you don't know. They'll disappear and for a day and not text you, and then come back like it's all okay. And they're just really disorganized. So they have a little bit of the anxious piece to them, a little bit of the disorganized. So that's what brings them together. So those are the ones: the dismissive avoidant, the disorganized avoidant, and then the anxious, and then the secure. So our goal, of course, is always to be a secure.
Yeah.
But like I tell everybody, if you know your attachment style and you are in the space of healing, you can actually be in a relationship and grow from there, because it has happened. But it's the acknowledgement. It's acknowledging that it exists and really wanting to deal with that. Not too many people are in that space. A lot of people, once you say it, it's like, oh, you're trying to label me. It's like, when we were going around calling people, depressed, or we're going around calling somebody narcissist. People don't like to hear those words. They don't want to be, labeled amongst their attachment style, but it is real. And I think it's both women and men sit on this pole. So I think a lot of the big deals with the attachment styles is if we can heal from those and we acknowledge them, we can have the best relationships. We really can. Actually better than if we just ignored them and didn't, we really can grow from them. We really, really, truly can.
That was my next question, Nat, because I know for me within coaching, sorry about that. I know for me within coaching, I think a lot of people don't know what attachment styles are. And so they really don't know the steps to take to go from those, the insecure attachment to secure attachment. And that's actually something I also teach in my coaching program. So my question for you is, what happens if someone ignores those patterns? Like maybe they are, like the overthinker or the anxious person. Like what happens if they ignore all of those patterns and they continue dating? What happens in that situation?
Well, unfortunately, what ends up happening is hurt people. So you end up, with very destructive dating patterns where you're very intense, someone's there with you. And a lot of all of these relationships, the big thing is that they start off okay, right? So And all of these, you're noticing they start off okay, and it's somewhere in the middle, whether it's a month or 2 months. That's where the dysfunction starts. And by then, somebody who's especially a caregiver, and you're used to, changing your schedule for this, being in a routine, you get caught in that little trap where you're like, oh, I'll just wait. They're going to change because I'm patient. I have to wait for my child that has, behavior. And I learned how to modify my environment from my mom who has a caregiver. I have to take, so and so to all their appointments, my sister and brother. So, I'm patient. So, we start, the boundaries start getting a little bit more grayer and grayer and grayer and grayer. And that's when we miss what is going on. And then later on, when you know, the relationship has totally destroyed us, or we're noticing how it's making us become unhinged, that's when we're ready to like do something about it and run. But by that time, especially when you have other people involved, there's a lot of other people can be affected. So we're going from somebody who's having these issues when you're single to like now you have your caregivers, you're a caregiver role, and now you have a child with behaviors and you're changing this environment. They see what's going on with you, they see your behaviors change, and now they're acting out. Or you have somebody in your family that you're supposed to be caring for, and they see you becoming unhinged, you're becoming very impatient, you no longer have the same grace anymore that you used to have. So those things now get put onto other people. So it can do a lot. It not only just
Ooh,
inherently destroys you, but there's other people that it
yeah.
starts to affect. So the earlier you can
Mhm.
identify that this isn't working and I need to back away, the better it is. And give that person that time, because we can't change people. We can't force people to see
Mhm.
something they don't
That's
want to see.
good.
You can step away, pray for them, and then move on. Because if you've already gone through the work of healing yourself, and now you want to date and you bring in this level of toxic cycle of someone who's just not healed and their attachment style is really throwing you off, especially if you're secure attached. If you're secure attached and you get with a dismissive, you become anxious. A lot of times people are anxious, and sometimes, the anxious people get attracted to avoidance. That's a whole nother conversation within itself. That seems to be a common combination. And what ends up happening is one person feels like it's too much as the other person's pouring in. And then you have that person running and you're wondering, what did I do? What did I do? And it was all attachment style.
Ooh, y'all, I hope you guys are taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we're talking about being a caregiver, but this is also things about dating and also making sure that you are healed.
Yeah.
Okay, making sure that you're showing up your best self within these relationships. Because as Nat said, hurt people, but heal people. And so you're going to start showing those signs that you're not healed in those relationships if you don't, notice the patterns and work through those patterns by going either to therapy or coaching. I know a lot of times I tell my clients, whenever you go back to your therapist, talk about your attachment styles, because I
Yeah.
know within therapy, that's something that they can really, uncover. And
Mhm.
so, that brings me to my next question is like, how can someone tell that they're ready to date, like they're truly ready, right? While being a caregiver. But how can they tell that they're truly ready for dating versus they just don't want to do life alone because it's so much that they're carrying, being a caregiver. So how do they know that they're really ready for this?
Oh, that's a good one. For me, someone who's a caregiver, there's a real diagnosis called caregiver strain. There's a caregiver role strain. And I don't mind how people get it. If they want to go to therapy, they can do coaching, but it's something that requires a community. It requires people that you can have around you. And the reason why I say that is when you are getting ready to date, right? You have already have to show up having that time and space. So if you have a caregiver role, whatever it may be, if it's to a child with disabilities, if it's to a parent, if it's to a family member, who is going to step in when you need to go out on a date, when you need to take time for yourself, to show yourself self-love and self-care, because that's important. I don't believe anybody should just be out there dating and not have their own personal time to pour into themselves too. So what does that look like? Because there's a lot of people who feel guilty about allowing someone that space to watch their children, to watch that child with disabilities, to have other people come in. And that to me is where I tell people you really should prepare. That is important to me. If you don't know that, then you're not ready to date. If you don't have that, as to answer your question, you're not ready to date if you don't have the space and time. And what that looks like for a caregiver is real. If you don't have that put in place, then you need to really sit there and say, man, how am I going to get to know this person if I am putting myself 100% into this care, not 50, not 80, and I'm not even to the space where I even have time for myself. I don't even have time. So now I don't have time for myself. I don't have time to put into this other person. Now you're going to interpret things really wrong way, right? So now when they don't text, you'll be anxious because that's you're gravitating to that because you're almost trying to rescue where you are to get relief into this other person. So it could leave a lot of dynamics that are unhealthy to come out, even if you're healed. So in the healed space, you get healed. Now you got to make the space. And that's important because a lot of people want to date and you really haven't established a routine, a schedule. It might mean that you have your children in therapy. It might mean that you get a behavior therapist for your child and get them right. It might mean that the three, I see somebody writing something, I can't read that, but about 3.5 year old. But you have to be in a space where someone can care for them in order for you to successfully date, for you to be able to pour into that other person just as much as you want to pour into them. Because if you don't, how is this person going to get to know you? They're going to get to know you in survival mode. And then you're going to get upset that they're not giving it to you, but you haven't given them time. So, oh, they don't call me or they don't take me out on dates. Well, every time they want to, you say, come over, or I got the kids, or I have to go here, or meet me at the baseball field. You don't get to date properly. You're not giving itself
Yeah.
the time that you need. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
times that prepping, people don't want to hear it. You got to prep your children. You got to prep the care,
Yeah. That's
the
good.
dynamics that you're giving, and you got to give yourself those boundaries. Like, I'm taking care of me. I'm also going to go on a date, but I need to have healthy people that I can trust. And if you don't, you're going to get sucked into that. You're going to get sucked into your family, and the other person is not going to appreciate that. So, how are you going to say you're not giving me time? You're not showing me love or affection when you're not showing it? But you don't want to be honest with yourself because you're carrying so many other hats, you really don't see it. But you really aren't ready. You really haven't given that space and time
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah. So I remember, I mean, as you were talking, it just reminded me of a client when I first started coaching, right? It was over 5 years ago or almost 5 years ago. But I remember she came to me and she had signed up for coaching. She had a disabled son. He was in a wheelchair, and I think she had like a 3-year old. So she had her hands full.
Mhm.
And she was like, I am dating a guy. He lived in a whole nother country, and she came to me and it was truly for support. Like, she had her support system, but she really had to get her mind around really even being in this relationship, a long distance relationship with a man overseas, right? And not only that, navigating life with her special needs, son, and having another toddler at that. And so I just remember just the level of exhaustion she had. I mean, within our sessions, where I really had to build her up. It was not always about dating, it was more so about, how are you doing? How's your self care for the week? And I could just tell she had it. But one of the things I always told her was, I'm super proud of you, number one, for doing coaching. And also, I love the fact that she has such a good support system. Her mom would take the kids so that she can go and be with the guy she was dating overseas. And she ended up marrying him. But
Amen.
this was her fear. The fear was that, he lived in another country, so he had never met the kids.
Oh,
And so she was like, she went over to where he was and she ended up marrying him to bring him to the States. But she was like, Coach, I'm so afraid because I have so much on my plate here in the States. And he's been very supportive. Like, he was supportive on the phone, on FaceTime, and things like that. But to see her go through those challenges, I just remember saying to her, like, wow, you have a great support system. And also, the guy she dated was so encouraging, so supportive. And I was like, you know what? He's just going to continue being that because he's been that for the last couple of years when they dated long distance. So I do want to say I've seen firsthand how you can, be a caregiver and still have those healthy relationships. And she's now married to that guy. Like, she's married, he's been over here and they're doing well. So I just kind of want to share that for those of you who may be here and you're wondering, like, cannot ever get married. Like, I've seen it firsthand. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
you have as well,
Mm-hmm.
Nat, and you've been able to navigate a relationship. One thing I can say about Nat, let me just say this. I say this all the time. Listen, the things that Nat juggles, okay? For to know Nat, like, you have to understand her life. You know, you have your children, you know, the relationship and like all these different things, your career, helping with Casey. And I'm just like, how do you do this? Like, when I say nobody can tell me they're busy, Nat, you are the epitome of people make time for what's important. I've
Absolutely.
seen you like take care of your mom, show up for your relationship, show up for ministry, show up for your business, show up for so many different things
Yeah.
because you want to know why? I also feel like because you also had a great support system.
Absolutely.
So support
Mm-hmm.
system is so needed for
Mm-hmm.
this particular topic that we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about tonight. Having a
Absolutely.
good support system.
I mean, and I respect what you said because one thing she did do on top of that is she did coaching. So that's what I meant about if you are feeling like you have the support systems, but you just want to make sure, like that is important to me because community is important. I mean, being part of KC is important, but one-on-one coaching, I think that really helped her. Like when you said you
Yeah.
grounded her and you brought her back to a space where you're like, are you okay? Because there's going to be people who'll say maybe you shouldn't date. Now I do say that to the people who don't have the supports, don't haven't gotten the healing, but she was doing the work. And
Mm-hmm.
she found someone totally aligned with her who saw her doing the work. Not only did she see her doing the work, he saw it actively. So he already loved her for what she was, and he knew he can do anything. He can be that support system in present, just like he was long distance. And big respect to him because he watched that. And that's what I mean about us showing up, whether we're a single mom, a single dad, or single caregiver, or we're juggling caring for our siblings, someone who's ill, is showing up in a space where that person's like, man, like how you said to me about the things she can do all of that and she still fits me in. Oh yeah, I have to be with her. I'm totally in love with her. I'm in line. I see my purpose. I see that I can fit in. She's not going to dump on me. She's already got this handled. I'm going to be an extra support system to this. And that's a beautiful space to be in. And the fact
Ooh.
is, she got the coaching. She was like, look, I know I can do this, but let me get some help to navigate this dating and
Mm.
do it the right way. And I think even him hearing that and seeing the changes in her healing process, which is why we said somebody doesn't always have to be totally healed, but he saw her going through that journey. He knows that she was going to coaching, I'm sure, and he saw the active changes. Man, he was like, look, I better snatch her up before somebody else does. Like, this is too good. I know she could take care of me. I know she could do, I
Yeah.
know that this is the best because that is a piece of grace people don't understand. When you even brought up how she was able to navigate and care for a child, a man or a woman who comes into a relationship and sees as, man, this person has patience, they've got organization
Mm.
skills, they must have their finances managed because they're able to pay all this, they got a good support system, so people must love and care for them too, that they'll be willing to help. Why would I not want to be
Mm.
with this person? I'd be crazy to give this
Like,
up. You know what I mean? So I know if I need something, they're going to be there number one. I know that they got my mom on lock, my kids on lock. I know this person can do it. They showed me.
That's good. Put that ring on it because
Yeah.
if you don't snatch her up, somebody else will. Um, it brings me back to my next question about the emotional weight, right? When, you know, I think about just when you're caring for someone that has special needs, there's a lot emotionally that you have to be like go through. I even think about, like I said before, just being a parent, okay?
Mhm.
Taking care of someone other than you. Like, I think for us, like living in this world, we have a lot of different things going on in our world
Yeah.
today. Now
Yeah.
you add on being a caregiver and the emotional, weight that people do carry. And one of the things that I always say, guys, is you don't want to trauma dump. You don't want to dump all of your burdens on this person. And that's why I
Mhm.
was glad when my client came to me for coaching because she didn't want to take that to her partner. Right. And so, how do you think for those that are watching, how should they navigate like going through their emotions? Because it's real. I mean, as much as women can handle a lot, and God has called us and He's made us to be nurturers and caregivers by nature. That's really in our nature, right? To be that.
Mhm.
But my question is like, how do women like separate that from their dating life, like the
Mhm.
emotional weight that they bear in being a caregiver?
Mhm. I'm going to do it twofold. So I'm going to do it from the women perspective and also men, because there are some too that do that. But from the women perspective, we carry so many hats already. So we naturally are multitaskers. We take care of everything. We are innately, Proverbs 31, we're taking care of people, we're tending land, we're working, we're doing so many other different things. So the emotional weight comes in being honest with yourself that that doesn't need to be dumped on or poured onto someone that you're bringing in. I would say the
Yeah.
same thing to a man who you don't want to pour that onto somebody just coming in, because you want to get to know that person authentically, just like they want to get to know you. And you coming in just dumping all of that is not where it's at. I totally disagree with that. And I know some people are like, oh, show them who you are when they first show up. I said, but that's not what you want to show when you first meet somebody. You don't want to show them that you are all disarray and your life is crazy, and then now you're trying to fit that person in, especially on the side if it's a man who's used to leading and trying to fix. You're putting a lot of burden on that person, and unnecessarily so. So the relationship comes on out on a very really rocky ground. So it's not going to be a healthy relationship. And imagine a relationship, the dynamic where you're coming in and you're just, I want him to come fix this. I just need, I just need somebody, or all I have to do is every time you call me, I'm telling you how, my child had a meltdown and they went in school and did
Mhm.
this. I'm still trying to get the therapist. And, my mom's caregiver didn't come in. I had to take care of her. I took my uncle to 10 appointments, and my sister ain't helping. And this person has to come hear that. And if he's a true man and who really loves you and he's Christ led, that's going to be a lot. That's going to be a man who's healthy enough to say, you know what? As much as I like you, this is not the space for me, because he ain't even going to get to know you, the real you, right? He's getting to know you all in a disarray. And I tell people the mismatch of relationships that get like this, they're the ones that go down the fastest. So I've
Mm.
seen people who rush in those kind of phases. The person's like, oh, but I can help her, or I can do this. And then months later they're divorced already, or they're instantly broke up. So now you add in already a struggling environment. Then you add on the layer of, I'm watching you intention. Oh, I didn't know that you still yell at your kids, or you still yell when this happens, when you're all unhinged. It is not a good space at all. It's not.
Mm.
It's not something that should be done at all. It really should be that you get yourself together. They don't need to see you in that space. If anything, a man wants to see a soft feminine woman. It's okay that, after the first three conversations they hear you, and then something happens and you tell them, and you frame the way you say it. But that's why it's important to have the community. And if you don't have a community, get the coaching, get the therapy if you're unhealed, because it's not everybody
Please.
needs the therapy per se. But if you don't do anything else, get coaching, get in the right space where somebody else can guide you in, teach you some tools to relax, to breathe, to put yourself first in order to get this right. Because there's no reason why you would want to bring a man or woman who wants to bring somebody in relationship for it to shake the whole house up again. You already got enough going on. You trying to keep peace.
Mm,
Peace,
come on.
peace,
Listen, keep the
keep
peace.
the peace.
Please.
More
Please
peace.
do not dump on that man. Please don't dump on that
Yeah.
woman. She needs to get to know you. He needs to get to know you. And again, community, community, community. Have somebody that you can vent to.
Yep.
My next question is gonna be, when it comes to the challenges, right, that caregivers face, right, within their role as a caregiver. What do you think are some challenges that they do face? What are some things that they go through on a daily basis?
I People who are caregivers go through a lot of challenges, which I have to say make it very difficult when they're dating, because boundaries are a huge thing when we're dating, right? And I find that people who are caregivers, they're used to caring for other people, and things aren't already perfect in their life. Let's just call it that. We'll use that word. Things aren't just nice, neat the way they would want it, especially when you get into people who are coming in with guilt. I have a child with disability. I have to deal with the guilt, the shame. Those things should definitely be therapy for. But imagine having the guilt, the comparison, the shame, or the tension that I'm the only one caring for my elderly parent, or my siblings don't do anything, or you have a family member, you're the only one responsible for caring for them, and they have their own kids they're not helping. You could be helping a sister, brother, cousin, aunt, get to their medical appointments, help them with their, whatever disability they have. And you don't, feel like you're getting either the recognition or getting the help that you should get from other people. Now comes the dynamic of irritability. You're kind of in a space where your boundaries are kind of off, because now you got this person who's, they're soft in your ear, make you feel good. So you're having these conversations, but you're not taking the moment to see the real stuff, the real attachment there, the really attachment issues. You're not, approaching things with the clear boundaries. So I will say that people who are caregivers can be targets to people too, because they know and they have this feeling, like, honestly, that you feel like you're not enough. And that's something you have, that
Mm-hmm.
you're too much, or that you're not enough.
Wow.
And so you got to be aware of those dynamics, because if you walk in already saying, hey, my last
Mm.
relationship ended because of this person couldn't handle this, I'm tired of doing this and being the only person, that person's going to be in a space where they can see your weak points, and there's going to be people that unfortunately can take advantage of that. So you have to really watch. Make sure you keep your boundaries strict. Make sure they stay firm. Not just because,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I finally found somebody to talk to me. He understands my schedule. He doesn't mind this and that, and he doesn't mind. Really make sure that you're in a prepared space where you're really looking at this objectively in a healthy way. So you're attracting the right people. You want to attract the right person who's aligned for your purpose, because caregiving is a purpose thing too. It's a whole service. You got to steward your life and your whole time, your money. It is a servant kind of duty there that you're doing. So watch how you approach relationships without maintaining those boundaries, without really looking at things clearly and objectively, because you'll find yourself thinking you're aligned with somebody that you're not.
That's really good. That's awesome. My question for you is, how soon should you tell someone that you are a caregiver when you meet someone? Should you do it in those first few conversations, on the first date? How soon should you tell them?
I think a lot of it can happen generically, like on its own, but relatively quickly, because you got to give someone the opportunity who can't do that and doesn't want to do
Yeah.
that. So you don't want to lead them on. So caregiving is a little different. You want to get that out as soon as possible. Like the first couple of conversations, it should not be the third time you're talking, they find out you have kids and you're a caregiver. That should not be it at all. If they don't know it the first time because you're having such a good conversation, what did you do the second day? Did you have your kids? Did you have to do the care duty roles? Did you not let them know that this is what your schedule looks like? This is kind of like what would work for you, communication style wise, when you could possibly even date or get out the house. So it's important to get it in a very, very quickly. Like that's not something you wait long to talk about. No. So I would say
That's good.
by third conversation, that should have already been out. That should be definitely out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always think about, when it comes to your values and dating and things that you believe in or your core values, I always say you want to get those out as soon as possible because you want to be able to weed people out and you want to see who's a good fit for you based off of where you are in the season. So if you know you are a caregiver, I think letting the person know as soon as possible is definitely important so that they can make a decision on whether or not they want to stay,
Yeah.
or because there are some people who can't handle it. Like realistically, there are people who say, I can't date someone that has to always be home and can't really do much. So again, it
Mhm.
really just goes back to, really knowing yourself and really understanding what are some things you can really tolerate in the season and some things
Mhm.
that you can't,
Absolutely.
and be realistic. And speaking of realistic, I want to talk about, what do you say to someone who feels like by dating they're going to get someone to help them carry that load?
Mm.
Do you feel like that's realistic or unrealistic to date and have that mindset that, well, if I date, I can get a partner and they'll help me carry this load?
I love that one because I've had people who say that, like I'm tired of doing this alone, and then I'm looking at them like, I don't, in the most caring and objective way, you say, that honestly is not fair to the other person coming in. And I can say the fair in this right way. You want someone to come fix is pretty much, or rescue you when you don't even know what to do. And my whole thought process in that is fix your situation or get it to the place where it's something that somebody would want to come into. So you don't have chaos. You've gotten the child the right therapy, the ABA, the behavior therapy. They're in school, they're getting all the speech, they're getting the things they need. The person can see. You have a child with physical disabilities, you're getting the things that they need. They actually see you caring and taking care of the things that need to be met. They see you caring for the elderly person. They see you doing these things in the natural state that you can with the right supports. As we said before, the right supports. They want to come in as an add-on. They should only be coming in as an add-on. Or
Yeah,
they willingly want to come in because they align with so much other things than just being a caregiver. You
that's
can't have
good.
someone and just want them rescue you for your caregiver role. It will never survive. Your relationship won't survive. You'll be the quickest to divorce, the quickest to break up. It has to be that you're aligned on other things. The person appreciates your not just your outward beauty, but your inward beauty. That you're soft spoken. That you pray. That they see the way that you can resolve conflict. That you give them space. That you always ask how they are. You reach out to
Mm,
them too. That you can give
amen.
and receive. There's so many other qualities that have to be the core. That has to be an add-on. I hate to say it has to be the last thing because it's not, because you still have priority and your children are important, but that is an add-on to the core because you really want somebody who's going to care about you ultimately, and then the rest adds on. Because what a true man or woman who wants to be in your life is going to say is, I love you so much, and everything, I've seen how you are and I love all your qualities. Everything attached to you I automatically am going to love. Everything attached to you I'm automatically going to care about. And this is the same thing I say to people, because you don't know if you marry somebody and you might have to take care of your spouse's mother or father. How would you say no? If you love that person, you love everything that's attached to them. You want to make sure that they feel that, listen, that person, everything, I know that they can care for me. I know that they're going to help me. They're not going to let me, if it was me, they would be there for me and my mom and my dad. So I'm going to do it for them. That's the space you want to be in. It should be added on, not them coming to rescue you.
It's
That
a
is never
bonus. Come on.
a
Yes.
bonus. It's
I
an add
love
on.
that.
Just like bonus parents, right? So if that child doesn't have the other one, but this person coming, it should be a bonus, an add on.
Bonus.
We love bonuses. We love bonus.
I
Bonus
love
feels
that you
good.
said that.
Bonus always.
Yeah. You're not looking for someone to come rescue you or to come save you from those responsibilities, but to add to your life, your life. I love that because I really think that it is like not realistic to kind of put that burden or the expectation on the other person and say, hey, you're going to be here to make my life better. I think it's kind of selfish versus
Mm-hmm.
like looking at it like, no, like we get to do life together. And I'm not just looking for you to bail me out of my responsibilities.
Yes.
I'm looking for us to build a life together,
Mm-hmm.
while I get to do all these great
Mm-hmm.
things and be a caregiver. So I love that. I think this is such a much needed conversation
Mm-hmm.
again. And for those of you that are watching, I want to reset the room because we're almost to the end of
Yes.
this conversation. And I know so many of you have been dropping things in the chat. I'm seeing
I
your
see a lot.
comments. I
Yeah.
do want you guys to write down your questions. So whenever we open the floor to ask questions, you can ask those questions as well. So
Mm-hmm.
just a couple more questions for you, Nat. I think this is really good and a lot of gems because, again, there were people here tonight that were saying, like, I don't even want to date. There's someone who said, she fears getting married. She don't even know if that's even something to desire because she's taking care of her mom with, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Alzheimer's. And so it's a real thing out there. And I don't think it's something that's being addressed enough.
Mm-hmm.
How do you date while navigating that season, right, of being a caregiver? So my next question is, what are some traits or some qualities that caregivers do have that would make them a desirable partner?
And this is where I love to drop my now. This is going to be my cognitive behavior therapy because this is really what it is. I'm just going to come straight to it. This is CBT and it's called cognitive reframing. So y'all going to get a little piece of that right now. Every time someone who's out there has a thought, they're too much to date. Who would marry me? The idea is who would not marry me? Look at all the skill sets I come with. So when you
Mm,
look at it, look at all the skill sets you have as being a caregiver. Someone already walking in gets to witness you taking care of someone who's ill. So guess what? They know they can take care of me when I'm sick. They ain't gonna run away. This is not gonna scare
Mm,
them. They already see it. They see you managing time. You have to manage time for yourself, that caregiving role plus them. They see you managing funds, money, the bills. They see you managing a mortgage. They see you going to work. They see you managing that. Why wouldn't they want you? So if you
mm,
can cognitively
got it.
reframe that and put it in front of you, you will always have that positive goal that, as long as I come in a healthy state and I'm healed, nobody should not want me. I am the prize. When they say the prize, no, I really have a lot
Amen.
of gifts that makes me the prize, honestly.
That's
Because
true.
I'm coming with so many things that they don't have to worry about what it's going to look like later. I'm already grown up. I take care of this. I do this. I do this. And I still have time for you. And I love
Oh,
you. And I brought you into this space because I care and trust you so much that this life that I've stewarded so well, these children with disabilities that I've cared for so well, this mom, this dad that I cared for so well, this aunt, this sister, this cousin, this person I care for so well. I cherish you enough and respect you enough. I'm bringing you into this life to say, hey, let's get this together. We can do grand things in this kingdom. I can help you with your purpose. You can help me with my purpose. We're gonna do this. So frame it as it is impossible somebody wouldn't want me. As long as I'm healed, I'm coming as the best version of myself, but the best option somebody should have. Not that you're comparing yourself, but when you frame it that way, that you absolutely are stewarding God's gifts. Because even though somebody will say having a child with disability is a challenge, having someone care for, you have to be a special person to do that. So I always call it a gift
amen.
giving. Because
Yeah.
let me tell you, in my caregiving role, sis, I have learned a lot about patience. I have learned a lot about giving. I have learned a lot about grace. I have learned to forgive
Mm,
my own self for times where I didn't know what I was doing, or I was angry, or I misplaced my frustration. I had to do a lot of that. So imagine somebody who, when I've already dealt that challenge, when they get to see me in this space, they watch me work through all of that, and I'm still loving you and caring for you. Come on now, you definitely should.
mm.
You should definitely be like, yeah, she's got some good qualities. I can add on to that.
Someone said, thank you for saying that because those thoughts come to my mind often
Yes.
where she feels that way.
Mhm.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
So reframe your mind. So
Yes.
instead of thinking, why would someone want me? Why wouldn't they? I
Absolutely.
really like that. And it's really just also positive self talk,
Mhm.
right? And like really speaking life into yourself. And I love that you said, because of all the giftings you even get and the things that God uses to build your character, being a caregiver, again, patience, long
Absolutely.
suffering, joy and having to have joy despite the circumstances,
Come on
those
now.
are things that God can build in you as well. So look at the positives instead of like the negatives, definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then my next question is, what are some qualities that caregivers should look for in a potential partner whenever they're dating?
This is big because what we talked about before, we're the group of people that can be a little bit weaker on our boundaries. So you might have to write this one down. They might have to get your journal and keep this clear. I say this a lot because it's honestly true that people who are caregivers, because of the stretching and pulling, a lot of times will take some good qualities and magnify them and won't look at the red flags. um you know and it's not that there's good qualities in forgiving and hanging in there, but there's also times when something's not healthy. There's a difference in giving something time, space to see where it's at. Then there's times where the thing wasn't healthy and you just was holding on to little pieces, little tidbits, because they were still coming around, or they took care of that one bill when you were struggling, or what it is, you just don't have it. So boundaries are very, very important, and someone who respects that boundaries. So someone that you should be looking for is someone who doesn't mind the lifestyle that you're in. From the first time you tell them, they don't look at it like it's something that's impossible for them to do. Not in
That's
the
good.
terms that somebody's going to say, oh, I didn't know, because there's some people say, oh, I wasn't going to date somebody with 3 kids. I wasn't going to date somebody this age. I wasn't going to date somebody this height. There's a big difference than someone who's not inquisitive. I think that's my biggest thing. When you tell somebody where you are in this caregiver role, they don't ask any questions. They don't ask, like, the next time you call them, they don't ask how did you do your day with your mom's appointment or your aunt's appointment. It's almost like they're disconnected because you really don't. I'm not saying that you need someone to take over your life, but you need to measure those, because how is that person really showing that they're aligned and really respect what you do if they're not asking, right? And then those times, it's almost like that check-in. Are you okay? Yeah, most of us we're gonna say we're fine, but if not, but they're going to be actively involved in some way through a conversation. They're going to be consistent in that conversation and the way that they show up. They're going to respect the fact that, hey, you can have to put certain things first. It doesn't mean that you're putting them last or second, but that when you are putting space and time for them, you have to respect that. And you should too. So in turn, you're respecting that time and space, they're respecting it, and also alignment in the whole part about, I have this role, I don't think it's going to go away. So because one time I said that to somebody, and I said, did you tell them that you're a caregiver, but it's not like your mom is going to your sister, like she might likely stay with you. So this package looks like it is right now. You know what I mean? If you're gonna love me, you have to love me where I'm right now and how you see me, because it's not like I know this is gonna change. Because if you're a parent of a caregiver or of a child with disabilities, and likelihood of them living independently is never gonna happen. They're gonna be with you for life. Are they okay
Mm.
with that?
Yeah, that's
You're
good.
taking care of an elderly parent. I don't know when that person, or how long that person's going to live, or how long, and what that dynamic looks like. Am I going to care for them in my home until they're sick? How does that look like? I know in my culture is very strong. We don't do nursing homes. So everybody I know knows that it's not just my mama I'm going to take care. I'm going to take care of your mama too. If that's the decision you make and we want to do it together, it's going to happen. I'm going to take care of your mom and dad just the same way. So reflective, understand that, is that going to be something the person can tolerate and do. So I think aligning themselves. A lot of times we get
Yeah.
involved with people like, that ain't for me. If people sometimes say that's not for them, you really need to listen and stop, put the
Listen,
cherry
yeah.
on top. Because if it's not for them, they may only be doing, this access thing. They like talking to you because you're accessible, because you're always home. They know where you are. They know you ain't gonna come follow them. You ain't gonna chase them down. So if they don't call you tomorrow, you'll just be happy to get a phone call. So you got to really understand what the boundaries look like and what qualities you already know you're looking for, because everybody is different when it
Ooh.
comes to that. Make sure they have faith. Make sure they understand that they can honor where you are and respect you where you are in their relationship. And you do the same for them, because there's a lot of people who also won't be in the space where you can't be mad at somebody who can't handle that, right? You can't be
Mm-hmm.
mad at somebody who says that that might be too much for them, even if you do start talking. That's why dating is so important before you get into courtship, before you get into marriage. So giving that space and saying, don't say, oh, I absolutely can't date, because I think those are the spaces we get to not practice, because I don't want to say we're practicing and using somebody's dummy, but this is where we learn and we stretch whether we are truly healed, whether we're really ready. Sometimes it's just those dating scenes, and then you're like, you know what? I really wasn't ready. Or maybe now I need to go get my community, because those people flaked on me twice. They're looking at me like, why am I dating? Because they ain't watching my kids. So you learn, you know what I mean? But I think the alignment comes in finding someone who accepts where you are and is willing to be an add-on, and graciously gives you praise for where you're at. Because if someone's not saying, man, you're doing a wonderful job, they see what you're doing, kind of not their thing, kind of almost like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you're not asking me questions? You're not asking me how my son did on his, or how my mom's doing. It's kind of odd, you know what I mean? I live with them and I take care of them every day, because to me that's an involvement that goes way beyond. So when there is a relationship, how involved will they be, right? How
Mm-hmm.
will they respect what you have to do if they're totally
Mm-hmm.
ignoring and act like it don't exist?
And I also think too, Nat, just to piggyback from what you said, like you can also listen out for how they deal with things in their personal life. You can definitely tell if that is a caring individual just from listening. And that's why I tell my clients, listen more than you talk sometimes, because you can pick up a lot about someone
Yes.
just by listening and observing how they treat those in their lives, because then how you treat your mom, your sister,
Mhm.
your kids, it's going to let me know if you're a good fit or not with me in this role. So
Mhm.
really just paying attention as well.
And you get to be a
Um,
good model. Because
mm-hmm.
while you're paying attention, that person should be modeling. If you're
Yeah.
taking care of your mom and they have a healthy mom and dad, they better be seeing them. You
Yeah.
know, if they got siblings that are involved, they should be talking to them. You know, it's like if you're doing this for someone and you're doing it at the extra because they're disabled, how are they showing up? Are they loving up, like you
Yeah.
said, on their family? Are they really somebody who's family oriented? Because let's be honest, and a caregiver role, you have to be someone who loves your family. You know what I mean? You have to
Hmm.
be a one that takes family and will, care for them and be present for them. So it's important to align with that, have somebody who agrees with that and aligns.
Yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh. So like alignment is important, not only even in this space, but I think just in dating, making sure that the person that you're bringing on, like, because you got to remember when you're dating and you're a caregiver, you're bringing this person into your life, into the person's life, and into your family's life. So alignment is super important. Making sure that you align with your beliefs, the season you're in, you align when it comes to your morals, your values, and your belief system. So alignment is key. Okay. We're gonna wrap it up to this last question that I have for you.
Okay, bring it, bring it.
Um what are some ways that the people that are watching today can truly prepare for a healthy relationship?
That so, before we talked about this conversation being so important, and one of the things that I am totally keen on, and I see a lot of the comments. I can't read them all, and I know it's something that's important. I see people talking. I implore that this is the space where people really need to be doing the work. They really need to be doing the work. And I'm not just talking about only healing, but they really need to be looking at what support looks like. If you have no clue, or you're still in the phase where you don't think it's possible that somebody can marry you or you can date, you need to get the
Hmm.
help. You need to get the coaching. You need to be in a space where you're lining up the things, because there are tools. I mean, we don't have time to answer, to get into it, but there's tools that you actually should be doing that can get you in a better space, so that you
Mm.
feel like, hey, I'm ready. Not only am I saying that I'm ready, I can show by this and this why I'm ready. And it's work that should be done. Anybody who's questioning whether or not they should be dating, or maybe I'm too much, or I had to stop dating, or I don't think it's ready, they really just need to do the work. It's important to do the work. You're not just doing the work for yourself, you are doing the
Hmm.
work for everybody around you that's attached to you, so that you're not only showing up for that other person, but for yourself. Because believe me,
Hmm.
our kids are watching, even the ones that are disabled, they're watching. Your family members are watching, everybody's watching. And so you want to make sure that you're doing that work and being ready, truly ready for a partner, whatever time that's going to come. If you decide to start dating first and then, take it serious, but really just getting yourself in a space where you're
That's
functioning well
good.
and ready
Yeah.
is really
Yes, I
important.
love it. I love that you mentioned community again because one of the things that I'm big on and it's helped me in my personal journey as a Christian woman is community and the importance of being amongst like-minded people. And so I just kind of want you to talk about like what is next? Like what are some things that you, what are some maybe projects or things that you may be working on? You
Mhm.
know, speaking of community, like for those that are watching, I
Mhm.
mean, do you have like resources for them that can get them the support, that can get them the community that they need? I know some people, you know, are probably watching like, hey, I can't afford a therapist, I can't afford coaching, but do you
Mhm.
have something that they can actually learn more about this topic?
Absolutely. And this topic is important, not just for those people who are, writing in the comments now, but this topic is important for lifelong. It's really, truly important because we live in a world where things change daily. The dynamics on households, a lot more people now are living with extended family, and a lot of people are going to have to stay with family. Your children with disabilities may not be living independently, and it could just be cost, it could be, behavior. So, what I do, and I think I said this before when I saw this on, and I said this is such an important conversation, such dear to my heart. I believe it does involve next steps. You aren't going to get all the answers in an hour and 15 minutes of today. So if you're open and you're ready to do the work, this is what we mean, what it looks like. You're getting the benefit of having, coaching, plus, the mental health side of things. You want to take opportunity of that. So, what I do believe comes next is, are you willing to take the step to engage in that, actively engage in the steps? Because you ain't going to get that right now. Like, you're not going to get everything that you need to get. meaning the self work, the survey that shows you which attachment style you're talking about, how you go about getting your children ready emotionally, mentally, getting your family ready. What does it look like building a community or building the people that you need to help you to date? What does it look like when you're going through the frustrations? How do you reframe the thought processes? How do you choose the right way? How do you set yourself up and be prepared? So the next steps will be is I have like a link survey that will
Okay.
take this inventory to find out what does everybody really need so that we can build that for you all, myself and Coach Roxy, into like a 4 weeks. Summertime is coming. We can do this and get ready, because what we do know is the enemy is trying to break up relationships, trying to break up marriages. He doesn't want them kingdom marriages, and he's going to have you all thinking you can't get married, you're defeated, and there's just way too many of us out here being caregivers. We got to be married. Okay, we're going to just fix our mindsets. We're going to get ourselves right. We're going to get aligned, because he has us feeling defeated. He has us, out here saying it's impossible. We can't get married. Nobody wants me. I'm too much, and this could be on the terms of even, men who have people that they care give, or even care give part time. So it's
Amen.
really important that we really get our kingdom folks together when it comes to this, because
Amen.
we're
That I
also tired
went.
of divorces. We're tired of breakups too. And this, what they say, money, child rearing, they're the biggest reasons for divorce. You want to get this right. You want to be in a healthier space. So if you want to be in a space where you can truly learn about these things and really get it, that's what I suggest. And that's why this conversation is being had. It is so important, really, truly important. It's dear to my heart, because I know that when I see people not get the work done, and then more things come along, people are sitting there and they're like, oh, I'm just no good, and so then you end up, guess what? That spills over to your children. That spills over to everybody around you, because now they are losing self worth, because they need to see models of healthy people around them and healthy relationships. We need this.
Amen. I love it. I love that, Nat. So I definitely, I agree with you when it comes to dating, just having the right support. I think about the ladies that I'm coaching right now. Some of them are watching this live as well. I think about how they didn't have support, they didn't have the guidance prior to coaching. And now, just their level of transformation that they've
Mhm.
received from being in community, from really being in my coaching program, or for those that may be a part of our Kingdom Connections University, which is the online dating school that we have for Christian singles. And so, I mean, if you're a Christian single and you're like, man, I don't have the support system, I don't have community, and I've been navigating life alone, I've been navigating this season of dating alone, I just want
Mhm.
you to know you don't have to do it alone. Like I
Right.
said, we do have that Kingdom Connections University. It's a community. We have tons of training videos on healthy relationships, because that's what Kingdom Connections is about:
Yes.
healthy, thriving, and loving relationships that lead to marriages. So, I mean, if you're looking for a community and you're looking for support, you're looking for coaching, we meet on a weekly basis every Monday night. We meet. Lord, hold on, y'all. Let me put this thing back up, 'cause that thing want to fall off. We meet every Monday night, and the devil is
It's
alive.
late. It's late.
I
It's
don't know.
late. It's shutting down.
Hold on, yeah. Hold on. I think like I'm like hitting the desk or something.
Maybe that's what it is.
The thing falling. You have my tripod, babe. Yeah. The thing just started shutting up. I guess it's probably saying it's time for bed.
Yeah.
But I don't know why it's like falling over. But for those of you who are truly looking for a community, you're looking for support, and you're looking to really get to that place where you have the community, you have the support, you have the training videos, Kingdom Connections University is the place to be. Now,
Mhm.
I know some of you may be saying, well, I can't afford coaching. Well, listen, this is an investment into your life, into your future. It's $97 a month. What are you
Mhm.
going to get? You're going to get coaching on a weekly basis where you get to show up, ask us questions, right?
Mhm.
Within a group setting on a weekly basis. monthly Bible studies, master classes, and topics like these, where Nat and I are going to be teaching you on the various topics of dating. And
Mhm.
so Nat will be teaching the 4 week master class within Kingdom Connections University. And so, like I said, it's $97 a month for those of you who are interested in investing in your future and making sure that you have the guidance, you have the support, you have the community. Go ahead and send me a DM with the word school. All right,
Yes.
because this is a part of our school community. And
Mhm.
so school. And then that way we'll know you are ready for school, you're ready to be in community, you're ready for this master class, and we'll send you more information and
Mhm.
we'll make sure that you're a right fit for our school community because we want to see y'all married. We want to see you guys in healthy and thriving relationships that lead to healthy marriages. But you got to do the work. Like Nat said, like you got to show up healed. You have to show up really making sure that you have done the inner work. You've healed from your attachment style
Mhm.
and all of that. And so we really want to help you guys. Nat, I did drop your form for them to fill
Mhm.
out that survey to kind of
Yes.
see where they are. But
Mhm.
if you're interested and you're saying like I need community, go ahead and send me a DM with the word school.
Mhm.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. And it's good. I
Awesome.
mean, it's totally important. We don't have these conversations by not praying about it, by not seeing what needs to be done. Like I said, this is
Mhm.
something that's near and dear to my heart. I see a lot of people struggle in this area, and it
Yes.
doesn't need to be. We really, and let me just tell you about what it is a joyous thing when you do have not just your other partner, but your best friend. So when you get that partner, you won't be in school no more, right? Because now you'll be sitting there with somebody who totally gets you. But to get to that space where you can allow a healthy relationship to even start coexisting with your life and your family, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, just imagine what other people get to see from you too, the joy, the light. It's going to be a beautiful thing. I mean, and I think preparation is truly important.
That's good. Preparation, community,
Absolutely.
accountability, all of that is important.
Always.
So, Nat, I do want to give the people a chance to ask some questions if
Yes.
anyone is in here. And you guys, I know we had a few questions that were, you guys were asking. So, do you guys have any questions for Nat
There was quite a
about?
few. I think something. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Wait, can I?
You should be able to be careful. But do you guys have any questions? We're going to open up right now for you guys to ask questions. So if you guys do have some question, go ahead and ask. Any questions about being a caregiver and dating and handling all of life's responsibility, whether you have children with disabilities or maybe it's a parent, whatever it is. Do you have questions regarding that? We want to hear from you. I don't think we missed. Let me see.
I just saw comments so far. I haven't really seen any questions, just comments.
See, Christine said, I can't handle that right now, but I'll take a scholarship. Christine, well, hopefully you can come on into our KCU, Kingdom Connections University. I do see that some of you are reaching out about our school community for Kingdom Connections University. So that's great. We'll definitely get back to you after this live and
Absolutely. And
tell
if
you
you're
more
coming
about
in
it.
after a replay, we're excited that it's
Yes.
a conversation. I've had some people share it from outside, so I'm sure it'll be viewed again. But
Yes,
I
absolutely.
I want to give you your flowers because you're always so ready. I mean, these people don't know how much we toil for Kingdom Connections and just the Kingdom community at large. You know what I mean? To be honest, this is the Kingdom community at large. And just so you know, it's really important conversations that we want to have, and we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs. And we just want healthy marriages, healthy connections. We're gonna do this. We're gonna really, really raise up a kingdom of healthy marriages. It's gonna happen. And yes, you can be a caregiver, you can have a child with disabilities and still be out here happily married.
Amen. I agree. I definitely second that as well. This is what Kingdom Connections vision is about.
Mhm.
It's really seeing everyone in healthy relationships and, always say you're worthy of that investment. You tuning into this live tonight was not by accident, right? You
Mm,
knew that maybe there's something that you wanted to get out of this live. I mentioned my client who she was a caregiver for her kids, but she was dating, she was in relationships. And so the fact that she was able to have that support, had her, she had her own support system, but also she was able to get a coach. And so for those of you who are watching tonight, again, you don't have to do this alone. God
mm,
did not create us to be alone. He looked at Adam in the garden, and what did he say? It's not good for man to be alone. We were created for community. And
absolutely.
that's why we do lives like these, because we want to build up the kingdom. Like, we need, listen, within the kingdom, y'all, I need y'all to hear us and hear us good. Within the kingdom, Christianity, we have the highest rate for divorce.
And it shouldn't be.
The highest. And you're talking about we serve the King of all kings, the
Mm-hmm.
Lord of all lords,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the highest. Over 50%
Mm-hmm.
of people get divorced. That's not okay.
Not at all.
And the way that we're going to change that, and that's why we do what we do with such passion, because the way that you're going to change that is by you healing, is by you getting the guidance that you need, right, in real time,
In real
the
time.
community, the support, the therapy, the coaching. It's by you doing the work,
Yeah.
preparing yourself, because people do not realize this is whenever they decide to go to therapy or we decide to go to coaching, like, you're preparing yourself for your future marriage, your future family
Absolutely.
as well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so don't sell yourself short and get in one of those toxic relationship and then be like, oh, I should have really done
Mm,
KCU a long time
absolutely.
ago.
Yes.
No,
Yes. Yes.
it's $97 a month. How much is that a day?
And
Like,
it's a no-brainer because when you know these conversations aren't being had, that means we're not fixing this. It's an
mhm.
issue. You know that this is an issue that's not being talked about.
Yeah, it's
We're
not.
not taught. We're already not taught how to date. That's what you do as a coaching and the healing and the whole process. So now you add all of this. It's a no-brainer. You need to be in a community. You need to be someplace where we're talking about these things honestly and we're giving you back the real-time feedback. Because it's not going to be like this where you're in a chat. You get to really ask the questions. You really need to bring up, do case studies. We talk about what this looks like and actual like assignments, what you're actually going back and doing that will work. So I think that's why it's so important, that people really not just be here, but be in the space where they need to be for the healing and the work to be done. So I'm excited. I'm
Amen.
excited for everybody who's going to join. I truly am because how I'm passionate about this stuff. I'm really
I
passionate.
know you are. I see we're
I'm
getting
really
some
passionate about it.
comments from Brian. Bryant, he said, great job, ladies. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you
Thank
for
you.
joining us tonight. And then Angel said, Amen. Amen. Awesome. All right,
Yep.
guys. So listen, I believe that we did what we were supposed to do. Now, I
Yes.
just want to say thank you so much for just saying yes, like I said before, to being here tonight. Thank you for the gems that were dropped. I
Yes.
know that so many people are leaving here encouraged, with their
Yes.
caregiver responsibilities. And I'm pretty sure that now they have hope that, what? I can bring a lot to the table, though I may be going through this season that is temporary. It is
Mhm.
temporary.
Very simple.
And so though I may be going through this season of being a caregiver, wow, what an amazing person I am on the inside. And I have a lot to bring to the table when it comes to dating. So thank you again for saying yes to doing this live. And I can't wait to see what the Lord does with this 4-week class that we are going to teach
Yes.
about dating and also about just being a caregiver and how to navigate this successfully. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. We appreciate y'all, and we'll see you guys again. Have an amazing night.
Good
Bye, guys.
night. Bye
Good
bye.
night.